Thank you for joining us. I'm Olivia Lemmon. More rain tonight and dropping temperatures could make driving conditions slick overnight. Let's get a first look at our local forecast for more. Hey there, good evening to you. I'm meteorologist Pamela Gardner. We had an interesting day today, mostly cloudy skies, and once again had to deal with waves of drizzle and slick spots on the roads this morning. Well, for tonight, we're going to watch for patchy ice to redevelop too, and some more drizzle. But we have a brief period in time this evening where we have the driest part of the day. Our temperatures falling from the 40s into the 30s, and overnight tonight, we're going to be right around the freezing mark across Worcester County. So watch for those slick spots, especially up in the Worcester Hills, a little bit higher elevation, and that's where you can get some colder air. The wind from the north-northwest here, and tomorrow we're not going to warm up much at all. We'll be in the 30s, low 40s across central Mass, 37 degrees in Worcester, and nice and chilly with a chance for another wintry mix. So for tonight, watch for some slick spots. Wintry mix for Wednesday. We'll show you some of that hour-by-hour timing. Sunshine for Thursday. That is going to feel fantastic, but it's short-lived as another system moves in for Friday. See you in just a few minutes. The City Council is set to decide on Worcester's tax rates next month, but before doing so, one councillor is asking for more information about a potential tax exemption for small businesses. Our Matt Restaino joins us now with the details. Matt.
That's right, Olivia. This tax proposal would only apply to certain businesses. These businesses own the building that they're in, have 10 employees or less, and are valued at less than $1 million. Now, there are only 375 businesses like this in Worcester, which means the rest would have to pick up the rest of the tax burden. Worcester leaders are exploring giving small businesses a tax break. The proposed exemption would cut taxes by up to 10% for qualifying businesses. City Councilor Morris Bergman says it's a way to provide small businesses with some relief.
They can absorb less than the larger businesses. Larger businesses oftentimes are able to either pass it on to their customers or able to absorb it better because they're selling more products. Smaller owner-occupied businesses have a tougher time paying those tax bills.
Only 4% of the city's businesses would qualify for the tax cut. The other 96% would most likely see their taxes increase. The Worcester Chamber of Commerce opposes the proposal.
The business community shoulders a heavy load as it is. Adding more just kind of puts a disadvantage to these businesses in the city.
Pixels and Pints would be a business eligible for the tax cut. However, owner Jason Easty says he doesn't support raising taxes for anyone.
I mean, it would definitely help getting a tax break. That's always nice, but I don't want it to come at the expense of other businesses having to pay more regardless of their size.
The chamber says Worcester's commercial tax rate is already high compared to the rest of the state. Guardiola says this proposal would make it even harder to recruit new businesses.
Companies like Olympus out in Westboro, they made it clear the reason they chose Westboro is because they had a low and fair, equitable tax rate.
Bergman says the city is still evaluating the idea and will only move forward if it makes sense for everyone.
I'm not suggesting we adopt this. I'm suggesting we have to look at the numbers to know whether or not it makes sense. If it means an extra increase of $5 to some of these other businesses, it may make sense. If it means $100, then it won't make sense.
If the city decides to go ahead with this proposal, then it could be implemented as soon as next month, which is when the city will set the tax rates for the upcoming year. In Worcester, Matt Restaino, Worcester News Tonight.
A group of 10 Massachusetts mayors, including Worcester's Joseph Petty, launch a coalition in support of a statewide transition to 100% clean energy sources. The group is calling for the state to transition to renewable energy for all uses, including electricity, heating, and transportation. The Mayors Coalition supports the use of 100% renewable electricity by 2035 and the phasing out of fossil fuels by 2045. The coalition will reach out to other mayors across the state to sign on to the coalition. A federal mandate requires states to use a mileage-based exit system on highways. Massachusetts is one of the last to make the change, but starting next year, drivers will see new numbers on their exit signs. Our Valerie Bell is in Worcester with more. Valerie.
Yeah, Olivia, they will begin replacing the signs gradually as they do work on the roads. That's set to start late next summer. Now, when they replace these signs, they're going to put other signs below them with the old exit number. And those signs will stay up for a minimum of 2 years to get drivers adjusted to these changes. A federal mandate is leading the state to change its highway signs, renumbering exits based on mile markers. The change will start in Western Mass and move eastward.
If 43 other states at the time were following this thing, why can't the other 7 states follow so we have a uniform nature across the country?
In Monday's board meeting, MassDOT said the new system is more accurate for emergency response, will reduce maintenance costs, and allow drivers to calculate miles easier.
They did that a little while ago in Maine, which is where I'm from. And they did that on I-95. And it was really helpful, especially if you're going south, because you can see just how much further.
But a majority of others I spoke to said the opposite. They said when they're behind the wheel, they're trying to focus on the road, so the change in exit signs could be confusing.
I think it's kind of dumb.
Not in favor of the change.
I don't think it would really help anything.
I think it might cause like a hiccup. Someone might not realize, and I don't think they should change it.
Drivers who travel the Mass Pike regularly say people not familiar with the area might struggle with the change more than they will.
I travel the road on a regular basis, so I know where I'm getting on and getting off. But for people who aren't familiar with it, I think it's important to have an exit number to go with whatever route number they may or may not be traveling.
Other less frequent travelers seem to agree. Changing the highway signs would likely throw them off.
I mean, I've driven through back and forth going to New York, and I may be confused if I were going through and exits weren't the same.
No, I like the actual tells me what city I'm exiting off.
The signs are not expected to change until late summer of 2020, but some drivers worry about navigating with their GPS and map apps.
0.3 miles. Exit right.
Like someone's like looking at the GPS and they, see a new exit or the sign's different, it could cause them to miss their exit.
Now, as drivers will see all these signs start to change, there is an exception. Due to length and spacing between exit numbers, some corridors will not be changed. Those include Route 213, Interstate 291, Interstate 391, and Lowell Connector. Reporting in Worcester, Valerie Bell, Worcester News Tonight.
State lawmakers voted to approve legislation banning people from using mobile devices while driving. The House voted 153-1 to approve the bill. Mobile devices will have to be used in hands-free mode while driving. Lawmakers say this will help save lives. Massachusetts is the only New England state without a distracted driving bill in place. A Worcester City Councilor is waiting for a report from the city to see how much congestion could be reduced if Worcester opened up Brook Street. Councilor Sean Rose says years ago the street was cut off after the construction of a new movie theater. He's hoping to help improve the quality of travel on the street and give residents options. He says the ultimate goal is to minimize traffic.
At the end of the day, people are just trying to get home after a long day's work, and if we can figure out a way to help them, a few of them or a bunch of them in a small way, I'm going to continue to search to figure that out for everyone.
And the request will be submitted at tonight's City Council meeting. More than 600 locations are part of the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom. A burial site in Uxbridge is one of them, and the recognition will allow the town of Uxbridge to apply for grants and get help for future research. Our Chandler Walsh has the story.
This is the burial site of Nancy Adams. She escaped slavery in the early 19th century and lived in the town of Uxbridge for decades. Her legacy lives on as part of the National Park Service's Underground Railroad Network.
This was really an area that was kind of a heartbeat of the Underground Railroad, and it was linked to a couple of things.
Adams and her family first tried to escape slavery while living in Maryland.
Her husband was sent to another town. She and her children were bound up and put on a wagon and taken to a market. And basically sent down to Louisiana.
A study of her skeleton shows injuries to her hips. It's why she couldn't work in the Louisiana cotton fields and was hired out to work in Connecticut, where she finally escaped before making her way here.
She was a remarkable woman. We have little glimpses of her in the historical record.
The town is still learning more about Adams, but knows she was in her 90s when she died. They discovered her gravestone in 3 pieces when they had to move an abandoned cemetery for Route 146 improvements.
They studied the bones, they studied the remains, they studied the history.
A replica stands in the Almshouse burying ground. Select board member Susan Franz says the town has at least 30 sites connected to the Underground Railroad and anti-slavery movement.
Of those 1,000 adults, 450 were registered members of the Anti-Slavery Society. So this was a hot little town.
Fran says it's because of the town's location and its Quaker community who believed in equal rights. They welcomed Adams, who later donated money to support anti-slavery efforts.
She went through horrible conditions and yet came out, supported the Anti-Slavery Society, lived as an independent woman.
Uxbridge Selectman Susan Fran says the town is working to get official Underground Railroad Network recognition for more sites in town. They're also working to set up a public exhibition on the Nancy Adams burial site history at the Blackstone River and Canal Heritage State Park next year. In Uxbridge, Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
After reports of several sightings in the city, a Worcester City Councilor is looking at the possibility of creating a coyote map. City Councilor Mo Bergman says it would show all coyote sightings in the area. Bergman says the goal isn't to target the animals, but to let pet owners know where and when the coyotes may be out. The town of Natick created a similar map after seeing an increase in coyote sightings and 2 small dogs were attacked. Good news for Massachusetts commuters. Gas prices dropped 2 cents per gallon this week. According to a AAA Northeast survey, self-serve regular unleaded gasoline is averaging $2.49 per gallon. It's 10 cents lower than the national average. At this time last year, the average price in Massachusetts was 22 cents higher.